So welcome to this micro training on listening to your budget. It is talking to you. I'm Sarah Olivieri. I'm a #1 international best-selling author. I'm a former executive director. I've also been a board member several times, and I am the founder of PivotGround and creator of the Impact Method. And today we're going to just have a quick training about your budget. So many people struggle with finances, struggle with budgets, or even people who are good at building budgets don't necessarily know what to do with them. So my hope is to get through some of that blockage here today. So I pulled this image from a quick search on nonprofit budget template, and I've kind of broken it into revenue and expenses here. This probably looks familiar. And the problem with this is it's telling us our income and our expenses. It's really a list of where money came from and where money was spent on. And that is great if you want to know how much money was left over or how much money is going to be left over. But that doesn't really tell us much. What we want to know really is what are our expenses and which results do those expenses give us? So not income and expenses, but expenses and results. So how do we get expenses and results? I like to talk about money in terms of pie, partly because I like pie, partly because it's round, and partly because why not? So for-profit businesses have their own kind of budgeting numbers to look at, and because at the end of the day, they're mostly making money pie. And so they really are only concerned with numbers related to money pie. But nonprofits are making money pie, but they're also making mission pie. This is the impact that your organization is delivering. So when we think about our budgets, it's not enough just to think about how much money are we getting. We also need to think about how much mission are we getting? How much mission pie are we making? How much money pie are we making? So that old budget, the first one we saw, the list of revenue and expenses, it tells us things like this. We made X amount of money pie, and we spent Y amount of money making money and mission pie, and at the end of the period, we had Z dollars left over. And you're thinking, well, at least Z isn't negative, and it's more than last year, so that's probably a good thing, or maybe it's less than last year and you're getting really worried. But so what? Where do you spend money next year? Where, what does that tell you? Are your numbers good? Are those expenses good? Are they helpful? Or is your income good? Could it be more? Should it be more? Should it be less? Does it matter? And where are you going to spend money differently next year than you are this year? Or is even a year the right period of time to look at? That list of income and expenses doesn't give you those answers. But thinking about your expenses and the outcomes those generate will help you get to those answers. So here's what your new budget could be telling you. Program A can make a lot of mission pie for every dollar that we put into it. And it's okay at making money pie too. It's making money pie and mission pie. Program B doesn't make money pie, but it makes a ton of mission pie, and it's getting better at making mission pie every year. And when I say better at making pie in this training, what I mean is more pie for the same amount of money. So your costs go down. It's greater pie making efficiency because everybody wants more pie. And our fundraising program isn't any better at producing money pie than program A at making money pie. So before I go on to the next slide, I'd love you to pop into the chat. What does this story tell you? Does this raise some questions or some observations for you? What do you think when you hear this story? Program A can make a lot of mission pie, and it's okay at money pie too. Program B doesn't make money pie, but it makes a lot of mission pie. And your fundraising program produces roughly the same amount of pie as program A. Let me know in the chat, what does that make you think about? What questions are you asking yourself? And if you're watching the replay, put it in the comments. What does this tell you? I'll tell you that it tells me that we have a fundraising problem, because if our fundraising program can't make money pie better than program A, then why are we even doing it? Yeah, fundraising program isn't working. Exactly. Yes, the pie metaphor in 2 types. Yeah, sounds like your organization. I really imagine some of my favorite nonprofits and the pie scenarios they've found themselves in. This is all too true. Continue to enhance program A. Program B needs to go away or revamped. Interesting. I like program B. It's great at making mission pie. And you know what I'll tell you about program B? Program B is the story that I want to tell to my donors. Program B solves this problem that you want to help solve, and program B can solve it better than anybody else. And if you want to be a part of being the best solution, put money into program B. That is a great way to let your donors invest in making mission pie with you. Yeah, awesome. So we're getting a little dialogue, right? Program A, program B, which is better? And that leads me to another question of, well, what does your organization need right now? Do you not have enough money? If your money is your biggest struggle right now, then you need to be investing in program A, and you need to be improving your fundraising program, because those are the money generating. You could probably let program B, just cruise for a little bit, not too long, because you don't want it to get bad. But if money is what you need right now, you need to invest in your money generating activities. But let's say you have plenty of money, then maybe you need to be investing in program A so that it can make even more mission pie, so that program A gets better at making mission pie while it still makes money pie. Fantastic answers. And if you're watching the replay again, I'd love to hear your questions, what you're reading into that in the comments. So finding the answers that you really want answered. These are some intermediary questions you should ask yourself after you know how to measure how good you are at making money pie and how good you are at making mission pie. And I'm going to give you some quick tips on how to do that at the end here. But these are some intermediary questions that will help you get to the final answer about what do we need to do, the so what about my budget. So which activities have the biggest impact on improvement? Do you need to get better at making money? Do you need to get better at delivering on your mission or making an impact? In that program, or let's take your fundraising program, for example, your development department, what activities are the biggest drivers of improvement? Is it how much money we put in? For example, the more we spend on marketing, especially advertising, the more our word spreads and we really get out there? Or is it more about having the right team? Or maybe investing in training for your team has the biggest impact on improving what you want to do? Another question to ask is there a minimum threshold for our investment to make a difference? So one of the things where I see this at play is nonprofits invest too little in their marketing and communications activities, and it's below the threshold of being effective. So even though they might add some to their budget in some years, they still don't see a difference being made, and they tend to give up on marketing and communications. And yet marketing and communications is and should be and always will be one of our primary drivers of both delivering on our mission, making mission pie, and having more money, because marketing and communications is all about building trusting relationships. And so, but here's the trick. And if you watch my other training on how much your marketing budget should be, you'll know that we talk about really needing to invest probably somewhere in the range of 25% of your total expenses, or of the total revenue you want to bring in, should be going into making money pie. And a lot of that's going to go to marketing and communications. So a lot of nonprofits are really, really low in this area. And so you're not seeing a return because you're below the minimum threshold. Another example of minimum threshold, right, is we're often talking about real people, full human beings, right? So if you can't feed somebody a full meal and you can only give them some Doritos, does that help them get a job? No, they're probably still just as stuck as they were before. Maybe they're slightly less hungry, but it's not really enough to make a difference. Or let's say we're trying to make an actual pie. If you don't have enough to even get the ingredients to make one pie, you still don't have pie. It's just not going to work. Or let's say you need to travel a certain destination and you only have enough money for half the gas needed to get there. It's just not going to cut it. There's a minimum threshold. And as you get better at understanding your money, you'll find that when it comes to thinking about real people, there are thresholds all over the place that we need to meet. For example, if you're a school, you may have, your costs for your teachers are the same per classroom up to, so whether you have 2 kids or whether you have 10 kids. But after you get over a certain number of kids, you're probably gonna have to add another teacher. So how good you are at making mission pie in a classroom setting with specific size requirements is it's gonna go get better, and then it's gonna get worse as you add a teacher, and then it's gonna get better again as you get more students. So a question about, does the 20% include staff costs for development or just expenses for marketing? I'm going to refer you to that training. We'll put the link to that training in the recording for this video because I talk about that in more detail there. Another question you should be asking is, when will we start to see the results of our investments, right? So this goes to, what's the right period of time to look at? Some things you'll have a big investment this year, but they might not pay off until next year or a much more future date. So it's really important to at least be looking a few years ahead. And if you've made any investments that are going to have an even longer period before they mature, before they start paying you back, make sure you have tracked that in some way. So for example, you might invest in setting up a planned giving program, but you might not actually receive your first donation that was committed for many years. So that can have a really long timeline. So don't waste an investment just because you forgot to track how long it was going to take to mature and give up on it too soon. Also, what's the cost of not taking action? And I see so many nonprofits are afraid to spend money, and they think that by not spending, they're saving, when in fact, they're losing gobs and gobs of money by being frozen, by not taking action. Some great examples of this is if you have bad fit team members and you just keep them on payroll and you don't let them go to replace them with someone who's the right fit, you're gonna literally spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, and that problem's only gonna get worse. So that's one of the costs of not taking action. Or sometimes there might be a time-sensitive opportunity to save a bunch of money, and you wanna do that, and by waiting, you end up spending a lot more money in the long run. Or I can tell you, consultants like myself, nonprofits are really often bad at buying consulting services, and we have to do a lot of extra work to guide people through the process of whether or not it makes sense for them to get consulting services. And while we love helping nonprofits, the truth is we probably would all be able to offer our services at a lower price if we didn't have to do that. So those are some of the costs of not taking action that you have to consider. These are sometimes also called opportunity costs. So let's talk about some formulas. Now, we can't get into too much detail here, and I'll give you a budget template which has some more formulas right in a spreadsheet that you can mess around with. But I just want to give you some verbal translation at what some of these formulas mean. So if you want to know how good are we at making money pie, a formula I like to use is you're going to take your profit. So if it's from a program, and yes, nonprofits can have profit, call the word whatever you want. I see people using net income and gross income and profit, and people use them in all different ways. There's no right or wrong way really to do it, except that you should come up with a consistent language that you use at your organization, and everybody should understand what it means. And if you need to spell it out in your budget, by all means do it. You'll see in the template that I have, it says, you know, income, profit as a percentage of total income. And total income will be the name of the top line item, or maybe you're using the word revenue. So just be consistent. So profit means, in this case, the amount of money that's left over. And when we're talking about gross income or gross profit, it might be the amount of money that's left over before all expenses are taken out, or the amount that's totally left over. It depends what you're measuring. So if you're measuring how good is program A at making money, you're going to take the amount of money that comes into program A, just for program A, and then you're going to subtract all of the expenses that you have because of program A. If you didn't have program A, you probably wouldn't have those expenses, and then you're going to have that profit. Or if you want to, if program A's primary expense is people, you might want to include the labor costs for program A in that number too. So whatever profit is, and it's up to you what means the most for your organization, and you're going to divide that number by the total amount of income that comes in to program A, and that's going to give you a point something number. You can times that by 100 to turn it into a percentage. So it might be like 0.3, and 100 is probably going to be your best. If you're doing more than 100%, you're doing something very magical, and you should keep it up and share it with everybody else. Another formula you can look at is, for every dollar we spend on fundraising, how many dollars do we bring in? And this is going to be your total dollars you bring in, your total income or total revenue, divided by your fundraising expenses. And this is going to, it might give you a number like 1.5, or it might give you a number like 2 or 3 or 4. And what I like about this number, as opposed to a number like cost to raise $1, is your cost to raise $1 tells you how efficient you are at making money in your fundraising activities, but it doesn't give you the full picture like this one. It really shows you the more we invest, the more money we get, up to a certain amount. Usually there's an amount at which investing more money in your fundraising doesn't, you know, it has diminishing returns after a certain point. And a last kind of way of thinking about formulas is, for every dollar we spend on program A, how much mission pie do we make? Now, everybody's increment of how they measure their mission is different, because everybody has a different mission. So you're going to have to think about, no pun intended, how to slice and dice your increments of achieving your mission. But once you do that, it'll be the number of mission pies, those increments of delivering on your mission, divided by program A's expense. And, you know, a lot of people, an easy thing to measure, but often not the most accurate, is how many people you served. But I'd encourage you to take that a level deeper and think about, you know, if we served 3 people and we made one person 1 times better, and another person 2 times better, and a third person 10 times better, how many increments of improvement overall did you make in the world? So try to complicate it a little bit more than just the number of people you served. Think about, what's that impact? Because your mission probably isn't just to serve people. Your mission is to get people from one place to another, or maybe you're an environmental organization, so people, it's the planet or animals. But you've got to think carefully about that. And if you're really struggling with that, that's a great thing to hire a professional team to help you with, to figure out what you can measure and what will really be a meaningful measurement. So as I said, I have a fantastic budget template. You can download it, pivotground.com/budget-template. template. And there's a little instruction video on how to make a usable copy that you can use as you would like. But it has all the formulas in it and each program broken down separately so that you can actually know how good program A is versus program B in that template. And if you need any help, as always, you're welcome to apply for a free consultation call at pivotground.com/apply.